Hello, hello. Welcome to Mindset to Results. And today we have amazing guest who is the legend and called marketing genius. Hi, Rikki.
Hi, Elena. And I do want to preface, I have never in my life called myself a marketing genius. That is a title that the late Steve Jobs of Apple, CEO of Apple, he bestowed on. And he did that after I introduced a product called the Axiotron Modbook. And it's now referred to as the iPad before the iPad. It was invented by Andres Haas, and the company was Axiotron. And in Apple world, there was a thing called Macworld, and it was an annual convention where every year Steve Jobs and Apple would unveil their biggest, latest, greatest product. And all the vendors from across the world would come in who sold peripheral products, software that ran on Apple, or hard drives that you hooked up to Apple products, any kind of ancillary product. And every year, Apple would win Best of Show, except one year in history. Only one time did a product other than Apple win. And it was invented by Andres Haas. It was for a company called Axiotron. And nobody would have heard of it if it wasn't for the marketing guy, me. I introduced the Axiotron Modbook, the only product to ever win Best of Show at Apple Macworld. And it was the year that Steve Jobs was talking about the iPhone. And so Steve very graciously called me, and he graciously complimented Andres Haas, the brilliant inventor, and he honored me. Steve Jobs, the great Steve Jobs, honored me, and he said, "Rikki Lee Travolta, you are a marketing genius." And it's really so touching to me. I work with celebrities. I make Hollywood stars, rock stars, and sports figures famous. Hollywood celebrity endorsement partners, a division of Entertainability Group, a company that I own with Deborah Swinford. And we have other ownership. It's a GM company. Also, the Rahani family is involved, the King family, the Zorzan family, um, Cahoda's family, Jensen family, a lot of families involved. McSherry. We, I make celebrities into celebrity brands. We also do the corporate branding. We've made number one brands in multiple industries. From Empire Today, I made Empire Today the number one flooring company in the US in less than a year. Statistically, it would have taken anybody else 10 to 20 years. I did it in less than a year. And Otherworld Computing made them from a little rented warehouse company in the middle of nowhere, Woodstock, Illinois. Now they're a $583 million tech leader. I can cite example after example of this. Here's the thing, Elena. I'm high functioning autistic. My own relatives, the Landers family, refer to me as an idiot because as a kid, they thought I was stupid. And yet Steve Jobs, the great Steve Jobs, called me a marketing genius. Celebrities, Steven Adler of Guns N' Roses fame, calls me his brother. I work with people from the Star Trek universe. Jerry Goldman, the senior head of finance at Paramount Studios, who produced so many films and television series, he made me his protege because they saw past the label of autism. They saw past the label that my family, the Landers, tried to put on me of idiot. And they saw the potential. They saw the true me, which takes communication, like you and I are doing right now. Because on a conscious level, right, we're thinking about what we're going to say. But on the subconscious level, we present who we really are. And that's a theory that I know you embrace. And that's with autism. I don't really understand text or email. It's just flat words. I need to see the face because that's how I read what's going on. I interpret things differently. And being different isn't bad. Being different is just different. Being different is not dumb. Being different is not crazy. Being different is processing information different, such as with other world computing. Apple computers, you have your Windows computers and you have your Mac OS X computers. The iPad before the iPad, the first OS X tablet. Well, those are two different languages, Windows and OS X. And it has to translate different for it to make sense. I think different than a quote unquote normal person. Doesn't mean I'm dumb now, does it? Steve Jobs says I'm a genius. It just means I have to process different. And so in order to do that, I have to see somebody's face or hear their voice. I also have to refresh myself from time to time. But that's where the term marketing genius for Rikki Lee Travolta came from. I'm, you know, as far as I'm concerned, my biggest title is right there. It's dad. And I didn't proclaim myself world's greatest dad, but my kids did. And that's my most important title. And then my next most important title in the US, I'm known as America's friend. It's a goofy term that a reporter gave me because I endorse products. And I not only do I make celebrities famous, I have a certain notoriety. Um, and I had a reporter and he was accompanying me as I just walked around town. I would stop, as I always do, and just give free advice to people in need, small business owners who can't afford those big price tags that I can charge a huge corporation to make them famous. I want everybody to succeed. I want everybody to succeed. And so I'll give away my advice for free to people who can't afford it. And a lot of my work, I channel the money to good causes because we're here as people, as a part of a community. Um, and so this reporter, he said, "Man, you're you're America's friend. You just want to take care of Americans. You don't care about money or anything." And I do in terms of I want to support the economy. And so it's an honor to be America's friend, but I like to think that that extends beyond borders. I want to be Europe's friend, Asia's friend, South America's friend. I just want to be everybody's friend. And so I dig that Steve Jobs called me a marketing genius. Elena, I dig that you introduced me that way. That's wow, so honored. But if I'm known as anything, I hope I'm known as a great dad. And secondly, I hope I'm known as people's friends. Elena as your friend, and as a friend to the business community, and a friend to celebrities, and a friend to the homeless, to the mentally ill, to the veterans, to the teachers, to the people in Elena. I know you're from the Ukraine, and you're safe now, right? But I interviewed a journalist who was on the ground when the whole thing in Ukraine happened. And I'll tell you, I'm a friend to Ukraine. And I'm going to tell you something else, Elena. I'm a friend to the people of Russia. Now, maybe not the people who are doing the bombing, um, but to all people who are here to do good, because everybody, everybody in the world is entitled to their own belief. Mine is mine. I'm not going to say my belief should be anybody's, but I happen to believe in God. And in my belief, God didn't invent countries. He didn't invent companies. He invented people, and that's what I care about. Not just my kids, but everybody's kids and everybody, and we're a community. And so any work that I do in marketing is founded on doing good for helping people. And it all comes down to a belief that in order to do good work, in order to be a good company, in order to be a good ambassador for a company, because I'm a spokesperson, it all hinges on the truth. It always has to be true. You have to be your true self. I'm not going to hide that I'm autistic. I'm not going to hide that I'm the son of a sex offender. My father was born Roland Warren Beasy Jr., and he has multiple names that he's hidden under across the US, and he's a registered sex offender. I can't change that. I can't change that I'm autistic. I'm not going to lie about it, just like I won't lie for a company. And one of the first things that I tell any client is we have to be truthful because we're building customers for life. That's the goal. Whether I'm making a Hollywood star, building fan base, or a rock star, building album sales and ticket sales. Who's buying? Who's buying the tickets? Who's buying the movie tickets, the albums? Customers, fans. And if you want them to continue buying, coming to see your shows, listening to your music, they have to trust you. They have to know you. And if you want them to know you, they have to know the real you. Because if it's just a wig and makeup, anybody can fill that role. Anybody can. But if you want to be a true rock star, true Hollywood star, excuse me, you have to be the real you because that's what you're selling. And the same thing applies to a brand. For Empire Today, I came in and they just had the most atrocious reputation. And I had to work with the customer service department to get them to stop lying to customers and be truthful. And so there's lots of ways that I make companies famous. I think different because I'm autistic. I do things different than anybody else. And if you always want, if you only do what's always been done, you're going to be average at best. But it's by doing things outside the box that you achieve monumental success like I do. But it all has to be hinged in honesty because otherwise you're lying to your client, you're lying to your customer. And if your customer is lied to, they're going to figure it out. And then they're not going to trust you. And then they're never going to buy from you again. And they're going to share that story. They're going to tell everybody, don't buy from Empire Today because, because they fired me because I'm disabled. You know, yeah. And that's the kind of story that destroys a brand. And then what do you have? Then what do you have? You have a destroyed brand for a few pennies. But if you build customers for life, then that brand is going to live on long after you do. And your kids are going to have a lot of money. And so I'm sorry, Elena, I will ramble to the end of time. I love to talk. Thank you for the introduction of Marketing Genius. Maybe in a more appropriate title would be Guy Who Likes to Talk. No, I just wanted to preface. I thank you so much for that introduction. But please, just think of me as your friend, as the friend of all your listeners and all your viewers and all the people around the country, all countries. I'm here to help. I'm here to help you, Elena. I'm here to help everybody.
Thank you, Rikki, for sharing. And I'm sure that Steve Jobs was right when he told that.
Yeah. You know, one really funny thing. about when we introduced the Axiotron Modbook. Found so I had another client. I was the executive spokesperson and head of all marketing, all publicity for a company called Otherworld Computing, and all divisions, Newer Tech, Otherworld Entertainment, where we worked like with people from Star Trek. And I worked with great Chase Masterson from Star Trek Deep Space Nine. When I was working with Jerry Goldman at Paramount, I worked with Michael Dorn. And so I even got Larry O'Connor. When he brought me into Otherworld Computing, he was very, very scared about his image. He was known as Lying Larry. And what an awful image to have, known just for being dishonest. And that's why he brought me in for all these secret meetings where he wanted me to overhaul his image and then Otherworld Computing. And again, going to honesty, he had to promise me part ownership of the company and a private office because of my disability, stemming from my father having been a bad man and done bad things to me. I required a private office so that people didn't see when that affected. And and so Larry really wanted to get rid of that awful moniker, Lying Larry. And so he made all these promises. I had to have the executive office. I had to have part ownership of the company. And then I showed up for the first day. And the woman who opened the door was a woman named Jen Schomburg. And it turns out I was replacing her. And I hadn't been told I was replacing somebody. And she hadn't been told she was being replaced. And it turned into this huge lawsuit from Jen Schomburg suing Larry O'Connor, I believe personally, and then Otherworld Computing, and because of lies. And that will torpedo a brand. But I did get Larry on stage when we won the Axiotron Modbook with Andres Haas, won the Best of Show. As a courtesy to my client, Larry O'Connor, and being a part owner of Otherworld Computing and Newer Tech and all that, I had Larry up on stage as Vanna White holding the Axiotron Modbook while Andres did his acceptance speech, because Otherworld Computing was also the distributor for the Modbook. But it's always honesty. It is always honesty that matters.
Yes, honesty cannot be replaced with anything. There is nothing in the world which can be equal to honesty.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
And
Gosh, Elena,
mhm.
you
Yes.
have the most beautiful smile. I do have to say, you know, you're such a success with your mindset. What? No, remind me the title. It's Mindset to Results. I've looked at your programs that you offer, and I know this is a podcast. This is about Rikki, you know, and this is my platform. But I want to steer it back to you because you're letting me be here. You're letting me talk to your wonderful audience, and the reason that I'm here is because of Mindset to Results and what you're able to accomplish. And so it's cool that you give me this platform. But I also want to steer attention back to Elena. And you have this beautiful smile and you're this wonderful success. And I encourage people to make sure to also look at Mindset to Results, because it really can help achieve results like Elena has, and so many people who have been through your courses, because I learned different. I'm autistic. I'll tell you a secret, Elena. I've never in my life made it through a textbook. I've tried. I would spend hours after school while all the other kids were playing. I would be in tears trying to get through a textbook, and I couldn't do it because it's flat text. There's no story. Now, a literary story, a fantasy story, I can see that in my head. It's wonderful. But a textbook, I've never made it through. Yet I had a 4.0 in graduate school. Same applies to undergraduate, with one exception. I had a B in marketing. Exactly. The only thing, I mean, that's what I do, marketing. The only B I ever got was in marketing. It's because the teacher gave everybody a B. But how did I do that? How did I have that success if I can't read a textbook? Well, it's because I learned different. And I learned by talking to people. I learned by reading the emotion on people's faces. And so mindset to results is a different kind of learning than you would find at university. It's not what they teach in schools. And yet it is so valuable to so many people. Different ways of learning, different ways of doing things. And I will tell you something, Elena. Even though I've never been able to make it through a textbook, that's just it's reality. It's a disability, technically. Super ability on one hand, disability on the other. Yet it doesn't mean I'm dumb. I am a best-selling author. And this was my first book, My Fractured Life. It's a fiction novel. It helped pioneer the alternate history genre, same genre that Quentin Tarantino's Oscar-winning film Once Upon a Time in America embraces. Brad Pitt winning an Oscar for that. Well, we just got the film and TV rights back. Originally, Heath Ledger wanted to star in this for Dan Riley and Peter J. Clark at Port Mickey Pictures when they optioned the rights. We just got the rights back to My Fractured Life, my first novel. And that's a testament to that. Yes, even though I couldn't, will never be able to make it through a textbook because it's a different kind of processing information. Doesn't mean I'm dumb, does it? Best-selling author. And your coursework, mindset to results, different way of teaching, different lessons that are just as valuable, more valuable than people are going to learn in university.
Yeah, thank you, Rikki, for sharing your perception. Of course, we all are here because we want to give people something that they don't teach in school or they don't teach in university. I think that successful people are those people who have that hunger to really go deeper and to find the answers to their questions, which they cannot find on the surface. And education, of course, it is good for general knowledge, but general knowledge didn't make anyone successful. And so, although we have to have general knowledge, even to be able to speak different topics and be interested in conversation, yeah, but I think that really people who have hunger for success, they also have hunger for specific knowledge, for special knowledge, which is related to their strength. And it doesn't matter what weaknesses we have. As you shared, you had that weakness that you couldn't finish textbook. I recently also found out I did the test for ADHD, and for my surprise, the numbers were high. And I never even thought about in Ukraine. We didn't hear much about that as I came to UK and I listen a lot here and there. But in Ukraine, it was somehow not so much emphasized. So now when I got the test, now I got the answers why it was so difficult for me sometimes to focus on one thing. And it was time when I was thinking that I'm like a Caesar in a female body, that I can type in one language, speak with somebody else in different language, and also keep my feet, for example, in jacuzzi, the same time doing massage. And I was multitasking, and I was thinking that it is my strength. And then when I started learning more about success principles and understanding that you have to focus on one thing at a time And when I started practicing that, it was so difficult. I couldn't do that. My mind, which was used to do things very fast, it couldn't just sit at one task, even if that one task was 20 minutes. I was studying something and I wanted to jump and doing something else, and then something else, and then only realization came when we understand who we really are and how why we process that way. And then through different tools which are available now, we find out, oh, this is the reason. This is why it was so difficult for me to focus and concentrate. And till now, of course, I'm practicing because I became aware of that, right? And I know that I had to create this as a part of my identity and how I do things. I have to focus on one thing at a time, finish it, and then just move my attention to different. But it was not easy, and it is important that we understand what is our weaknesses and we focus on our strength. Yes, we focus on our strength because I believe that everyone has weaknesses and has strength. But usually, what they teach in school, usually they say that, okay, you're already strong in that. For example, let's say maths. So now work
Mhm.
on physics or work on arts, which you are, for example, weak at. And we were conditioned to think more about weak things and just doing everything and be everywhere good, the best. But what I realized that we don't need to be good and the best in everything. Although if we have that inside our spirit which want us to be the best, yes, like if we have those saboteurs of hyperachievers, yes, that only want to be the best, want to be the first, that I was before. But later I learned that I don't need to be the best in everything. I have to know what is my real strength and focus on that. And then given that time and understanding how the processes should be to become the best for myself, not for best in comparison with other people, because I never can be the best. There is always one level up and one level down. There is unlimited number of different frequencies and levels, and you can never just be the best because it is always the next level to be the best. And people who just think about this, that they have to be the best and beat everyone else, the one who will they will beat is themselves first, right? Because
Mhm.
they will burn out and they will not have any satisfaction, any joy in the process, and they don't even know why they would do that to themselves. But when we really understand the process and we accept ourselves as we are, and we know our strength, but we don't let those saboteurs to abuse and overuse our strength.
Mhm.
Yes, when how it unconsciously happens if people are not aware. So we want to be in that sage mode, in that positive energy, and let it just go as the flow, and grow with this process from loving yourself and being compassion to yourself first, because this is how you will be not only successful, but also how you will be happy and healthy and joyful. And you create that beautiful energy that really will help many people to thrive and to attract so many people to your life, because they will just love to be with you with this energy. Yes, and they also will love to do the same.
Elena, God, I love everything you're saying. And in terms of being the best, I do a lot of work with sports figures, and I love the NBA. I love basketball. I'm actually very into right now. There's a league called Big Three, which is an alternative to the NBA. Not alternative in terms of competing, but something different. But I grew up with the NBA, and that's here in the U.S. And then, of course, in Europe, I was a huge fan of Vitas Sabonis, who was a Soviet star, but he was actually not from the Soviet Union. Um, he was forced to play for the Soviet team, but he ended up coming over to the Portland Trailblazers in the U.S. And my guy was Clyde Drexler, number 22 for the Portland Trailblazers, and now he's the commissioner of the Big Three. But in the NBA, everybody said Michael Jordan was the best ever, and that was going to be it. And now, if you ask kids today, it was Kobe Bryant or LeBron James or Giannis or Steph Curry. The best changes because Michael Jordan isn't 20 something years old anymore. He's older than I am. I'm 54. Michael Jordan's older than I am. He's not going to beat LeBron James in a one-on-one game. And so he's the best in memory. I love Michael Jordan forever. But he's no longer the best in what he can do today. He could beat me. Of course he could beat me. But I'm not a professional basketball player. And in my heart, the best ever is Clyde Drexler. And that's because he was an Olympic basketball player. He was an NBA All-Star. So he was right up there in terms of talent, but in terms of quality of person, he's the best. He sent, right here. This is a picture that he sent an autograph for my son Valentino when he was born, because I wanted Valentino to start off life knowing he could be anything he wanted. And so I contacted every person I knew, and I know a lot of celebrities, that's what I work in. And I asked them to send notes of inspiration. And so Clyde was so gracious and sent that for Tino to start him off on a path to success. And now Valentino and his girlfriend, the partner Jay, have Bunley Comics. It's a comic book company that's going to be absolutely phenomenal. And they're based out of Los Angeles. And it's because he got the start right off the bat, knowing he could do anything. But Elena, you mentioned ADHD. Guess what? Rikki Travolta has ADHD. And that was part of unlocking everything. Darren Coulter is a psychiatrist with a company called Geode Health. And he recognized I'd been misdiagnosed for a very long time based on false information provided by people who didn't know me. Kirk Landers, a gentleman who hadn't seen me in decades, and told the hospital something over the phone. And when I walked into the office of a real doctor, Dr. Darren Coulter of Geode Health, he recognized in 2 seconds. He said, "Man, you're exactly what Steve Jobs said. You're a genius. Let's see what's going on." And one of the things that he looked at was I have ADHD. It was discovered when I was a teenager, at the same time that it was discovered that my father was molesting me, and I had something called dissociative identity disorder, which it just means that daddy did bad things, and it doesn't mean crazy or anything. Just daddy did bad things, and I have ADHD, and like you said, torn in so many directions. In my head, I'm an award-winning screenwriter. I'm a best-selling author. I've written songs. I wish I could say they were Mozart level. They're not. We all have our talents, right? But I have albums and all that. And so in my head, I have probably about 30 books that are done. I have maybe 50 scripts that are done. I have maybe 20, 30 symphonies that are done. All that swirling around in there. And it's like, well, before, it was like there was 100 TV screens in my head, all with a different show on, all very interesting. But that's 100 shows, and you're going from show to show to show, trying to figure out what should I watch. The second that Darren Coulter at Geode Health put me on ADHD medication, I could focus on the one figurative TV screen at a time. I could focus my attention. So it was always this brilliance, but it was so much. And the ADHD medication, even the baby dose, allowed me to focus on one project, one creative venture at a time. And then as we increased the dose, I was able to focus in not just on the one TV screen, so to speak, figurative, but down to like the pixel level in terms of the image, in terms of I could hear the notes in a song. I could hear, I could see the details. With autism, I react very heavily to every influence, whether that be temperature, taste, sound. And with the ADHD medication, I could analyze that and figure out why. And I'm not a big proponent of medications. I don't like anxiety medications, the chemical ones, because they're addictive. Anything that's addictive, I'm really hesitant to explore. And each individual is entitled to their own opinions. In my case, Darren Coulter at Geode Health and myself and the great Jacqueline McHammer, brilliant therapist who I don't know if she's with Geode anymore, but she was. I don't know if Darren is. But they, uh, we all got together and we came up with medical marijuana as the ideal thing for anxiety for me because it wasn't chemical based, it wasn't addictive. And so the combination of the ADHD medication, and we started with Concerta, and then I've also um, looked at other brands, and I'll probably end up endorsing a brand. I'll probably pick one and endorse it because I do product endorsements, and I'm a well-known figure, and I'm a success story because of ADHD medication. But if it hadn't been for Derek seeing that, my mind would have just been this chaos of brilliance where it's all these award-winning projects, but I couldn't focus on any one at a time. And so I'm so glad that you brought up ADHD because it recognizing the truth about myself helped me fix it, helped me and a team fix it. And that's another thing is any success I've ever had in life has been through teamwork. And that applies to business. Empire Today, Otherworld Computing, Empire Today. I had the customer service team. I had the sales team, and Otherworld Computing. Kyle Lefevre was my head graphic designer. Grant Dahlke had come on and he kept quitting. He kept quitting because Larry O'Connor would just be so abusive to him. And there was so much work and all this awful things. And I kept saying, Grant, if we're a team, we can make this work. And so any success, I mean, these companies huge, was through teamwork. Well, that also applies to real world for me because I've been the spokesperson for huge technology brands. I was the spokesperson and executive vice president of Lola Wireless, which is a tier one ISP, which is to people who don't speak tech, it's like your Verizon. But just or your T-Mobile or any of those, but just on the corporate side, we represent companies. We do work for companies like Hillcorp, which is one of I think it's the number 3 natural gas company in the world. We just don't advertise to general consumers, or at least before Jacob Brosick broke a bunch of laws. And but I was the spokesperson for a tier one ISP, and yet I really struggle to work technology things, to work computers, and to work smartphones. To the point that my son Valentino, uh, even when he was a little kid, would be the one helping me with them. And so in order for me to even function in society, I legally have to have an assistant to help me like keep schedules and things because I think different, I process different. But through teamwork with me and one other person, I can do amazing things like Deborah Swinford. When we formed Entertainability Group, she was the one who said, Rikki, you're brilliant. And I said, Deb, I can't do it without you. I can't do filing. I can't do taxes and things. And she said, I'll do all that. You do the creative. And boom, we just went gangbusters. One of the things we did, just for fun, I was a national touring actor. I'm an award-winning actor. I produce films and television things, and I produce horror films. We had some that were going to be released this year, and then they were stolen while we were at an Airbnb in Fox Lake, Illinois. Somebody broke in and stole all the hard drives and everything. So it was reported to Officer Megan Blue of the Fox Lake Police. And then, oh gosh, Elena, the proprietor of the Airbnb, a cat named Nathan Brown, he's with a company called Westward 360. He didn't submit the insurance claim to get the films reshot and the albums released and all that. He did a bunch of crimes, and it's awful. But one of the things that we were there to do was relaunch Life and Times, which was this theater news and review site that Deb Swinford and I launched through Entertainability Group. And together, through the teamwork, I think it was within 3 months of us launching it, it was within the top 2 or 3 of all entertainment sites in Chicago. And again, that's statistically amazing. And yes, I was doing the reviews and I was doing the creative process, but I couldn't do the accounting. I couldn't file. So it wouldn't have even existed. It would have been a blip on the map if it wasn't for teamwork. And so it all comes down to working together, accepting who you are, accepting, in my case, I have ADHD, like yourself, accepting that I'm autistic. Oh, it's not a disability, it's a super ability. That's what Steve Jobs said. And that's a great way of looking at things. And so it's just accepting reality, it's being honest. And man, through ADHD medicine, that changed my life. That changed my life. But for some people, medication isn't the right choice. For some people, it's a matter of a program, like mindset to reality, that helps focus things in a natural way, right? So there's different ways to approach things. For me, ADHD medicine is magic. But for others, maybe that's not the answer. Maybe it's a course. Maybe it's a way of thinking. I don't know. What are your thoughts on
Yeah, I'm totally agree that, as you said, that it is not disability, it is superactivity. And I just
that? Yeah.
want to um, reflect and address what you just said, that it
Yeah.
is not what weakness we have, but how to turn these weaknesses into strength. Yes, like
Yes.
something that can, in other people eyes, they can see it as weaknesses, but it is not really weaknesses. We have ability to accept or reject anything. So if we want to accept that it is weaknesses, we will be like a victim and we will feel like, oh, I have this weakness and what I can do, this is my fate, this is my life. Or we can reject that and say that it is not a weakness at all, it is my strength. And who I have to look for to create a team that I can use this as strength and focus on that strength. And what I cannot focus, or what is making me difficult to do, I just find the right partner. And that person will be doing this with his field of strength because this is exactly what he loves to do. And when you put the team the right way, that everyone is their field of genius, then you understand that it is not weakness, it is your genius. And this is what you meant to do. This is what you can create, because other people don't just create this. Because this is like that hyperactivity when you always in somewhere like in the different energy, in different frequency, and you just generate ideas. And this is when you just say this, I just see myself because
Yeah.
I just want to create different ideas. I have one screen and then the next screen and then the next screen, and all these ideas are genius ideas. And when I start sharing with people, they say, oh yes, that is so brilliant, and I want to do them all. I don't want to miss anything. I just want to speed up. And
Mhm.
And when it comes to this grounded daily work to routine, I cannot do that. I just could. I feel like I'm in the cage. I want to fly, and I just cannot do routines. So I just know that I have to find people who just love to do routines, and this is what
Yes.
where they comfortable. And when I solve that part, then it gives me freedom. Then I don't worry about that anymore, and I'm totally in my this flying mode, inspiring and just creating ideas. And we know that it is the idea which worth so much. Everything else, it is just like process. But the
Mm.
ideas, this is the most valuable thing, and this is how we can really, when we focus on what we are good at and give ourselves that freedom, and that, like they just being who we are, this is
Yeah.
what opens those ideas. And I created so many ideas recently, like mindset to results, and then circle of fame, where we get world-class expert at panel discussions and everybody share the same topic from different perceptions, and it became such a huge success. And that all came just from the idea. I just thought, what we can create that doesn't exist yet, what I can create to give even more value to people who come as guests on my podcast. And so this creativity doesn't have any limits. If we let it go and flow, we just have to manage the right way how to address all these ideas, so we are not over, like burn ourselves, yes, in that so many things and excited. But again, it have to be in certain process to implement, so we not burn out, that we really enjoy what we create.
Teamwork. You mentioned it again, and I have this great example, and it actually relates to autism. Uh, there's a movie. It's called Rain Man, and it stars the great Tom Cruise, probably every woman's heartthrob of all time. One of those, and so many men look up to him as well. And then the great Dustin Hoffman. It's incredible. How many Academy Awards has he won? And in that film, Dustin Hoffman plays an autistic man, severely autistic, Charlie, who all he can really say is things like "want to watch Wapner." Very, very low functioning in terms of society standards. And Tom Cruise is his half brother, or I'm not sure if he's a half brother or full brother, but he's this smooth operator guy, but kind of failing in life. And they're in this bind, and Tom Cruise needs to make a lot of money really quick, and he comes up with a solution because Charlie, the autistic guy, can't even hold a conversation, but he can count cards. He can do the mathematics of counting cards in a casino. He doesn't know what counting cards is. He doesn't know how to play cards. That's beyond his comprehension. But he can do the instant calculations, which is discovered when a box of toothpicks is dropped on the ground, and he instantly knows this obscene number of like 782, something instant. And Tom Cruise realizes, his character does, if we partner together, my brother, Charlie, and I partner together, we can count cards, and they make a fortune in the casino in a night by Charlie, the guy who can't even play cards, doesn't know what mathematics is, but can do it. And smooth operator Tom Cruise playing the cards, they make a fortune through teamwork. Now, I'm not advocating counting cards. I'm not advocating anything illegal. I don't even advocate gambling. But that's an example from my world, Hollywood, of teamwork that also is an example of the great superpower of autism, where everybody is the best at something. We can't all be the best at everything, but everybody's the best at something, including Charlie. Charlie, the guy who people were calling the R word, retarded. Well, he wasn't. He was autistic, and he was the best at that mathematical ability. And I have a son who is autistic, not like me, not the super high function. He has trouble even talking. But guess what, Elena? He can build puzzles, three dimensional, that aren't even made to be three dimensional. I'll just turn around and they're built. And I can't even do a normal puzzle. You know, everybody is the best at something. And maybe that best is being the beautiful smile that inspires you to get up every, you know, best is a relative term. And sorry, I get a little weepy there thinking of my boy. Um, yeah, everybody is the best. And it comes in different formats. When I was hiring an assistant, and when I came on to Other World Computing, and because I have to have an assistant, and I had the perfect person picked out, and they were just fresh out of college, and they had all the right credentials. And then a woman named Eileen Millard shows up at my doorstep at the office, and she's everything I'm not looking for. She's I think she was in her 50s, maybe, and she'd never worked in public relations or marketing. She was the editor of a small town paper. And yet she wove into the conversation that she had researched to find out if Rikki was a male or female, because it's spelled unique, Rikki. And so she had researched to find out if it was a man or a woman. She found out where to deliver the resume. And she wove into the conversation all these things that made me realize, wow, she has none of the qualifications this job requires, but she has every qualification to be an incredible success and to be a part of my team and to make me a success and make this company a success. And so I went to Larry. I went to Larry O'Connor. I said, man, I have to have two assistants. He said, no. I said, yeah, I am. I'm going to walk because this woman has to be on my staff. And I believe Elaine Millard is still there to this day. I'm not sure, but I mean, she was there long after I left. And when Larry was violating all sorts of employment laws, of civil rights laws, of breaking contracts with Jen Schomburg and discriminating against disabled people and things, I talked to Elaine. I said, there's these offers from other companies. Would you want to go to another company? And I mean, I take care of staff people. I take care of people because people matter. It's not a company that matters. That's some scribbles on a piece of paper. Money itself, what is it, Elena? I mean, it's made up. Somebody decided that gold was worth something. It's a metal. Somebody decided it was worth something, and then they decided to translate it into paper. Well, it's paper, and then they decided to translate that into Bitcoin. Well, that's just an idea. It's just a name. None of that is anything. If you get back to what is money, go back to bartering. I'm going to trade you this chicken for half your cow or whatever. That's when you're getting something for anything. But I mean, like with Other World Computing, when Grant Dalkey came on, he put together the primer of, he was like, oh man, nobody's ever done anything like what you've done. They had one or two articles a year, and there was thousands each year from what I was doing. And now, if you go and look at their website, they've scrubbed all of my contributions, and Larry has changed the quotes from the interviews I did to his own name or to people who weren't even with the company. And that's where it comes into the honesty
Mm.
of, I mean, man, that gets discovered eventually, right? And then what happens? Then you lose your $583 million tech company because you lie. And if you're just truthful in the beginning, then you don't run into those problems down the line. And man, but Elena, um, you, all those creative ideas that you have jumping around in your head, and you making them happen with mindset to results, with the panel discussion. I know you've invited me on, and I have to come on. What is that called again? It's
Hall of Fame.
Circle of Fame, Circle of Fame. Because I've looked at it, and I have to beat myself up for not having scheduled it yet. But like yourself, I struggle with the scheduling. I need that person that's their specialty. because that's what makes it all work, is the teamwork. And one of the things that we're doing, I I have all those novels in my head, all those screenplays, award-winning screenwriter, but it takes me forever to write them because every word has to be perfect. Ghostwriters, we're going to hire ghostwriters, and it's not going to be the perfect version that's in here, but it'll be a version. Because what's better to have a good version that inspires people, educates people, earns revenue that then I steer back into social programs to help people in need, um, survivors of abuse, homeless, women who, single mothers, people without insurance, people who have been abused by the system, people in need of legal aid, um, medical research for things like ADHD, for something that's very dear to my heart, which is Alzheimer's, which has affected some loved ones of mine. And there aren't cures to that right now. But if I keep doing this work and steering attention and resources to things like that, then maybe eventually it does get solved. And so ghostwriters, they're not going to be the perfect version of what's in here, but it'll be a version. And so why should I die with all of it up here and then nobody gets to experience it? Partner with a ghostwriter, and a version gets out that I steer in the right direction. And then the revenue from that, well, first of all, the lessons for the how-tos get taught. And the revenue from the creatives gets shared to make benefit for everybody, whether that be in America for America's friends, the people I want to help here, or around the world, the people in Ukraine, where you're from, or the people in the UK, where you're hanging at now, or my friends in Canada, or my friends in Asia, where we develop products, computer products and things. I want to help everybody. I don't want to live in a mansion. I don't, because then I'm away from everybody, and I'm a social creature. I will starve to death emotionally if I'm not talking to people and hanging out and loving people physically. I want to hold hands. I want to give hugs and yeah, I kind of like the ladies, but I need that. I don't want to live in a mansion. I don't. I don't want to own one. I want to be in town and hang out with people, and so that's where the money goes. And I can't achieve anything. Can't achieve anything without teamwork. And so I'm so glad that you keep pointing that out, because it's important to me, and it's the key to my success. And it sounds kind of like it's the key to your success is having people to help you with the scheduling and things so that you can focus on those brilliant ideas that make Elena a success and that make mindset to results a success. And the panel discussion, I mean, everybody's the best at something. And Elena, scheduling and all that detail, that's not what you're the best at. This hosting, this getting people like me to just talk and share, and your brilliant ideas. That's what you're the best at. And Elena, I've told you I have kind of this awful family. And that's awful to say because I love them dearly. Kirk Landers is an award-winning journalist. Mike Landers is an award-winning blues record producer. Scott Landers is an award-winning, I don't know if he's won awards, but he's a novelist too. Jordana Beasy Foster, she's written some things, a magazine. She was a magazine editor. And Patricia Elizabeth Landers Beasy, she was a teacher. And my father, who was born Roland Warren Beasy Jr., is a convicted sex offender, as Lawrence Ernesti Jr., and now lives as Dr. Gerald Michael Beasy. Well, he's won awards in business and things. And I love them. And even my father, who was sexually molested, I love everybody. But they're not great people. In terms of, they don't approve of autism. They've never visited my son or sent him a present or for Christmas or his birthday. They fabricated things about me because they don't like autistic people. But I had one amazing relative, and she's my angel. She's no longer with us. And it was my grandma. Her name was Patricia Smith. She was born Patricia Smith, and then became Patricia Landers, and married to my grandfather, James Landers, who I never got to meet. He died before I was even conceived. But I understand he was a great man. But my grandmother, Patricia Landers, she couldn't rescue me while I was being abused on the other side of the country. She was in Chicago and I was in Portland, Oregon. Um, and but she would call me and she would tell me the things that everybody needs to hear. And one of those was, I love you. Because I think everybody needs to hear those words. And I never heard them. My father loved me in the wrong way. And my mother, to this day, has never said those words to me. And it's unfortunate. But everybody needs to hear them. And my grandmother would call me and she would say, I love you. And the other words that she would say to me was, I'm proud of you. And I think every kid needs to hear that too. I think every person needs to hear that. And so I tell that to my kids all the time. I tell that to people on the street. I tell that to anybody who's trying. Because I love superheroes. I grew up, my babysitter was the TV and movies and comic books. And I grew up fantasizing about superheroes and was fortunate enough to actually be considered when I was an actor. I was considered for the role of Thor. Chris Hemsworth did a much better job than I would have. He still has his hair. And I was considered for the role of Robin back in the Batman days when I was a young guy. And Chris O'Donnell ended up playing him. I was even one of the Americans who was considered for James Bond. Wow. But superheroes, those are characters. Real superheroes are the people who try and don't give up. And maybe they accomplish something. Maybe they make a difference. Or maybe the only accomplishment is continuing to try. And Elena, you're a superhero because you haven't given up and you've become a success. And you've overcome some things. You had to flee the Ukraine. You discovered that you have ADHD, figured out a way to maximize it. And you've taken all these creative ideas and you've created what I want to call a blossoming dynasty with mindset to results and your other projects. And you're a success because you're a superhero. You don't give up. And I know you're not going to give up. You're going to continue being great. And so in honor of my grandmother, I'm proud of you, Elena. Rikki Lee Travolta, for whatever that means, is proud of you. I'm proud of you.
Thank you so much, Rikki. It was really such a great conversation we had, and we discussed many topics. And I'm sure that we just can continue for days non-stop speaking about so many things. I really appreciate for your time and the way how you really honestly speak from heart, and this is what the most valuable. Yes, when we really can speak from our heart, honesty is the highest value. As you said,
Yeah.
love and honesty is the highest value. Nothing can be even near to that. And I really appreciate you for being today on our podcast, for your insights, for sharing from your soul. And I'm looking forward to see you again on our future episodes.
I would love that. Elena, I'm so honored to have had this chance to spend this time with you and to connect to your audience. Yeah, I don't want you to take this in any offensive way, and it's not meant that. I don't think you will. But just like my grandmother would say, "I love you" to me, and it was so valuable. Um, I love you. I love you as a person. I love what you give to the world. I love what you give in your teaching. I love what you give to your audience. And I'll say it to your audience. I love all of you. If you need a friend, consider me your friend. You can get a hold of us at celebrityendorsements.us. The email to get in touch. It doesn't go to me, it goes to the staff, but it'll get to me. They'll make sure it gets to me. And it's idol makers. We make idols, we make celebrities into celebrity brands. Idol makers at celebrityendorsements.us. And just consider me your friend. If every little autistic kid out there, I'm your friend. Every autistic adult out there, I'm your friend. Every person with ADHD out there, I'm your friend. Every person who is struggling to figure out where to go in life, I'm your friend. Everybody who has survived sexual abuse, I'm your friend. Every woman who has been beaten, I am your friend. Everybody who's been screwed over by a company, I am your friend. Everybody who feels persecuted, I am your friend. And guess what? Everybody who's a success and everybody who's happy and everybody who loves life and every person in every religion and every political belief, I am your friend. I'm your friend and I'm here to help. And I love you all. And Rikki Lee Travolta. They call me America's friend, but I'm your friend. And Elena, I'm your friend. And the late Heath Ledger's friend, and the late Janie Lane's friend. And I love you
Thank
all.
you so much. Yeah, I also love you, Rikki. Thank you so much for being you and for your amazing heart and love which you have for all people in the world. And I'm definitely sure that people would love to connect. And we would love to see you in panel discussions in the Circle of Fame,
Yes,
because we have different topics and different experts come and share topics with their perspective and from their passion and experience. And I think having you, it will be such a great contribution for
I
everyone.
I am in 100%. Rikki Lee Travolta is going to be on Circle of Fame.
Thank you, I'm looking
Thank
forward to
you.
see you soon.
Uh,
Bye bye for now.